What's going on, YouTube? RDAP Dan here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. And once again, it is Wednesday Ladies Night. And as I promised, we have the amazing Amy Povah that is going to be hanging out with us tonight. She's going to be telling us all about her own experience and how she got sentenced to 25 years in prison, how she was able to receive clemency from Bill Clinton, and how she's been able to take her horrible situation, turn it around into something positive, and help so many other people that are going through this same process. How are you doing, Amy? And thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I've heard about you for a long, long time, so I'm honored to be on your show.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm glad you're here. And I think the best way to really kind of let people know about what's going on is I've actually got a short video that you made a while back that I found on YouTube, and I'd like to play that video just to give everybody an idea of what it is you do a little bit and then kind of let you explain and go off of that. So everybody hang tight for 1 second. We're going to play a quick video of Amy Povah. Here we go.
Executive clemency or a 2-point reduction in their sentence. We appreciate President Obama's Herculean effort to tackle. These are just a few of the lucky women who were set free during the Obama administration, either through executive clemency or a 2-point reduction in their sentence. We appreciate President Obama's Herculean effort to tackle our broken criminal justice system by exercising his executive authority to grant clemency to prisoners, especially women who were hit so hard by the conspiracy law that ensnares minor participants, such as wives, girlfriends, sisters, and even grandmothers, by holding them equally accountable for the actions of a family member, friend, or loved one in the drug trade. Our allies, such as Cut 50, Nation of Second Chances, and the National Council of Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, are concerned that Attorney General Jeff Sessions' directive to amp up the drug war will incarcerate more women like the ones in this video. This will shatter families and unnecessarily rip children from their mother's arms for mere guilt by association. These are the faces of the women still in prison who also deserve clemency or a reduction of sentence. We have worked so hard for the incremental progress made thus far, and we cannot go back to the dark ages of the 90s. We are determined to fight back and bring more women home. Please sign our petition asking Attorney General Sessions to reverse his directive that will send more women to prison for drug conspiracy. Details are provided in the petition that accompanies this video. Together, we can do this.
All right, guys, so there you go. There was a short clip of what Amy Povah has been doing for quite a long time now, and I'm going to let her explain her story a little bit and how she got into this, and then we're going to segue into what so many of you and your families can really focus on in order to not only make your journey faster, but how they can stay involved and engaged. So Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how this kind of started for you?
Well, I don't want to go too much into my story because that just eats up the time, and people can go to the website if they want to under candoclemency.com and then the founder and read more about my story if they want to know more about the details. But ultimately, because of the conspiracy law, which is my Achilles heel, it's what I put in my mission statement to educate the public on. I feel that it's probably the most destructive tool in DOJ's arsenal because it ensnares people who are on the peripheral edges of drug activity. And I don't think that the majority of the public understands that there's very little between you and a prison cell due to the conspiracy law, that you can find yourself tossed into an indictment because of activity that a family member, even a friend, spouse, you know, I met grandmothers in prison because they had someone in the house that was dabbling in the drug trade, and they can throw you in the indictment. And if you spend some money, if you even didn't report illicit activity, if you gave somebody a car ride. Now, mind you, some of these are extreme cases, I understand, but I did meet a lot of women in there who were in there simply because they gave a college roommate's mother a ride one day because the person's car had broken down, and she ended up with a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence just for giving somebody a ride who was going to go pick up some money from a drug transaction. So I was thrown into an indictment with conspiracy and held responsible for everything that my husband had done, even though we'd separated a year prior. And again, I don't want to go into the details because I'm frankly get tired of talking about my story. I like to talk about the women that I'm trying to help. But I served 9 years, 3 months on a 24-year sentence for conspiracy. In which my 24 years was based on all the drugs that my husband, who was a kingpin, had manufactured. And he, ironically, engineered a deal. And because he rolled on everybody, he ended up with 3 years probation by the same judge that gave me 24 years. So hopefully nobody that is watching the show is looking at that kind of time. I hope the majority of the people are only looking at short sentences. But what I did after I got in was I went to the law library all the time, spent most of my time there. And after you exhaust your appeals, your last resort is executive clemency. So I went all in and garnered some attention from the media. And fortunately, between Glamour Magazine and Court TV and some public outcry, that landed me on President Clinton's desk. And on July 7th, 2000, I received clemency. And so when I got out, I was committed to trying to get some of the other people, the women who were still in there, out before President Clinton left office. Particularly my roommate, who I had written her clemency petition while we were in, and she was on the list on his last day that when he left office. So that kind of gave me a sense that, aha, I can do this. I've got this formula. But George Bush Jr. was elected, and there was a little dry spell there for a while, but anyway, I created the Can Do Foundation, Clemency for All Nonviolent Drug Offenders. But we try to help as many people as we can. I used to only help women. Then during the Obama Clemency Initiative, it was so historic, and so many people were reaching out to me, wanting me to help their sons or uncles or dads, that we started helping men as well. I have to say that my heart is mostly with the women, because I was a woman in there, and I know so many women who are the only co-conspirator who is still in prison, and most of the main culprits are free due to some kind of deal that they've engineered, or I don't know, I think there's some misogynistic tendencies within the DOJ. So I saw case after case where the women got far more time than the most guilty co-conspirator. And that disturbed me, especially since most of these women had children. So anyway, it's been 17 years, and I just keep plugging away and put people's cases up on the website and try to advocate for them so that other people can get justice through clemency. But we also have some other programs and try to keep people in prison informed. One thing that was missing when I was in was an organization that would communicate directly with the prisoners one-on-one. And that's hard to do because there's so many of us. But I have a prison outreach coordinator, Malik King, and a Guardian Angel program that if you want, I'll get into that a little bit. Because I know the value of staying in communication with individuals in there so that they can make us aware of what's going on or what they're going through. They can ask for help. We try to connect with their family members, and we also try to keep them informed of the latest laws that are in place, because as you may know, the rumor mill can always manifest some of these bizarre rumors that go around the compound.
Is that the referencing the inmate.com?
Yes, they're right.
But I do have a couple questions for you real quick on some stuff. So you were pardoned through Clinton, and was there a lot of pardons that Clinton administered on his during his presidency?
Well, I don't say that it certainly wasn't a record number, but also just from my own personal experience, and also I communicate quite often with a gentleman who worked at the Office of the Pardon Attorney for 13 years. His name is Sam Morrison. So I kind of have inside intel about what was going on during that period. And sadly, the Office of the Pardon Attorney was not interested in sending cases over to the White House, even if there were good candidates. We fell into a very dark period in this country, which we still haven't, we still need a whole lot of sunshine on this dark era that we haven't crawled out from under. But during that era, which, it was zero tolerance, throw them away, my phone is ringing, just, I don't know. Anyway, so it seemed as if DOJ, which has the last say, did not want cases traveling over to the White House very much. And it's my understanding that the White House wanted some commutations, but it was very difficult to trigger those cases. So what was happening was it's almost like you had to find a way to get your case some attention, some media exposure, or get it over to the White House by getting political support or any means possible. So I don't know. I think they would have done some more. It's already well publicized that there were problems at an inspector general came in not once but twice into the Office of the Pardon Attorney and determined that there was some malfeasance going on. So
yeah, and the reason I ask you that is because I didn't really hear about pardons or clemency until Obama was in office, and that's kind of when, at least that's when it hit like mainstream media and it became like a buzz. So from Bill Clinton to Bush to Obama, where we started seeing it again, and now we're with Donald Trump. It's definitely, it seems like it's taken a back seat with what we have going on in office right now. Do you have a lot of fear and struggle with right now, or do you feel like that they're going to try to do the right thing?
Anybody who ever says that they know what Trump is going to do is a fool.
I don't think he knows what he's going to do just yet.
Nobody knows what's going to happen from day to day. Including our president. Anyway, he did one this year, and in December, and to be fair, I think Obama waited until his second term. There was a lot of media calling President Obama the stingiest president back when I think people were just trying to send him a signal, hey, get busy with this, get busy with this. We need to see some movement with some clemencies. And for the most part, he waited until his second term. So I'll give credit where credit is due that Trump granted one his first year in office, which is kind of rare. And I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that level heads will prevail. I have a feeling he'll probably, if he does some, which I want to think that he will, that he'll be looking probably at a different demographic. I really appreciate President Obama's desire to focus on a demographic that was devastated so much during the 90s, which was minorities, the African American communities, the Hispanic communities, with the crack cocaine 100-to-1 ratio disparity that was just devastating and completely unjust in the way that it was even written. So you know, I can't compliment him enough for going and looking and seeking from the Office of the Pardon Attorney and DOJ some of the toughest cases, because he started focusing on lifers, people who are serving a life sentence, and he didn't shy away from some of the tough cases, including some people who were known to be kingpins, but had shown that while they were in prison that they had rehabilitated themselves. They were had graduated all kinds of different courses and taken it upon themselves to mentor other prisoners. And that's important, because we used to have the parole board, and that was the job of the parole board, to monitor and see whether somebody had earned the right to be released early, parole out. That was all ended with the new guidelines. So if you get a life sentence, you're going to die in prison. So kudos to him for wanting to tackle that, because it clearly, criminal justice reform is something that for some reason our politicians just can't seem to get you know, their heads wrapped around and get it passed, even though I think this is a modern day crisis. And even I would say that that the United States is engaging in crimes against humanity. If people really did look into some of the people who are serving 20 to life, and they had minor roles in these drug cases, but they went to trial. And if you go to trial, that means you're going to get slammed and get the bulk of the time.
Right. So with what you're trying to do now to help people, talk a little bit about what's involved in what you guys do specifically. How are you able to help a family in directing them into getting this type of possible assistance, and also explain, like, what are qualifications? Because there's probably people watching this right now thinking, well, I'm going to prison for 3 to 5 years. Is there any way I can qualify? Can you talk a little bit on what you do, who you're able to help, and who you're not able to help?
Well, that's always going to vary a little bit depending on whether or not a president is interested in clemency and what they're looking for. And so I have to say, if people are coming into prison around this time, that and you're only going to be looking at maybe 3 to 4 years, typically it's rare for somebody to receive clemency unless they've already served at least a few years, at least. And with Obama, the criteria that they put in was that they wanted people to have served 10 years. So the reason that is because clemency is kind of a last resort. The Office of the Pardon Attorney doesn't want everybody filing for clemency that has, you know, only served 6 months. That's ridiculous, because they want you to exhaust your appeals. The appellate process lasts usually a couple of years at the very least, and you've got your direct appeal, and then you've got a 2255 habeas corpus, and they've limited the number of appeals that we can file. So you have to exhaust that process first, or at least you should, unless you're a friend of the president's, like Joe Arpaio or someone like that, or Scooter Libby, to be fair. I mean, you know, there's.
So do you help people that also need to file those type of motions for 2255s? Do you guys deal with that, or not really? You want them to deal with that on their own? We
try not to, because we're not lawyers, number one. However, to be clear, I would caution anybody that just reaches out and wants an attorney to help them with the clemency petition, because I know of one case where an attorney literally charged a family member $70,000. That is a crime in and by itself, because clemency is not about arguing the specifics of the case. And if an attorney doesn't know what they're doing, that's exactly what they're going to do, and that's probably going to get you a denial. The Office of the Pardon Attorney, whether you like it or not, it's sort of inside the Department of Justice. So you have to understand who your audience is, and your audience is going back to the Department of Justice who put you in prison. They're going to allow your prosecutor to have a say, and the Department of Justice has the final say as to which petitions go over to the White House, which we feel is a little bit of a conflict of interest, but that's the way it is. So at least right now, the way clemency is typically achieved is it's about your rehabilitation. It's also about remorse. I'm not going to tell anybody to ever say that they did something they didn't do. But if you're going to argue the particulars of your case and say that you were innocent or you didn't do this, and you think that this is some kind of a court system that's going to look at the details of your case again, that's probably the quickest way to get it denied. So there are people who specialize in clemency, and we are on friendly terms with most of those people. We know who they are, and in fact, we've already got several people who didn't make it out on the Obama during the Obama administration law school that has a clemency clinic. I would say his name, but I don't know if he wants a rush of people asking for his help. But we would certainly pair with people like him and other people who specialize in clemency. We have helped a couple of people file their clemency because they were going to miss the opportunity with the Obama administration. So we did assist a few people. One of those people's, their case is still pending. And so we mostly advocate for people. And we can answer questions. We can give you tips on how to enhance your chances. We have a page, do's and don'ts, when you're writing a letter to the Office of the Pardon Attorney. We try to just, deter people. Don't write a letter and put in that letter, so-and-so is innocent, or this is what happened. If you weren't there, don't try to tell the Office of the Pardon Attorney what happened with this case. Let the petitioner cover those. Just establish who you are. How do you know this person? Are you willing to help them once they get out? Employ them? Are you a family member? Are you a character reference?
So this comes a lot. I mean, it sounds very similar to when we're working on personal narratives and character reference letters for clients when they're getting ready to go into prison, because a lot of the times, exactly what you're saying right now, is when we initially get letters from family members, it's all about, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't mean to do it. He's a good guy. He's sorry. He's got sick children. He's got a dying mother. And it's all the same stuff they've heard a million times. So it sounds like what you're saying is the clemency is not about proving they're innocent. It's more about showing their rehabilitation of what they've done, taking accountability for what they did while they were in prison, to create the atmosphere of, hey, not only did this person learn, he did time in prison, he now is able and capable of being a role model citizen back in the free world. Is that more of what goes into a clemency versus he's innocent? Right.
And yeah, the petitioner, yes, and those are the kind of letters that we would encourage. But we also encourage people to let the petitioner review the letters, or let somebody review the letters, because sometimes somebody can send in a letter and not even meaning to. They may want to go on and on and on about why marijuana should be legal or something like that, which, I agree with, or railing about how this person should not have received a life sentence. And they're just tone. I'm not going to say that that's going to get somebody denied, but gosh,
it's based on opinions. It's not sticking to the facts of what they've done with their time while they're in prison.
Right. And the petitioner can argue a few things. It's a very fine line. If there's been changes in the law, they can certainly point out that they didn't receive the benefit of retroactivity on some kind of case law, and
like the 2 points or the crack law or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. No, I think that's because I didn't understand that. I was always under the impression that clemency was more for, hey, like wrongfully accused type of a situation. And even though that may be the case, like you said, you never tell anybody to say you did something if you didn't do it. However, sounds like when they're going down this road, there is it sounds like going in by yourself is not the wisest thing to do, because if you don't know how to navigate that area, you could accidentally cause yourself either just a flat out no or more harm than what you meant to do. So I think this is a good video for people because we do have some clients that are, we've got a woman right now that's looking at like 22 years. This is stuff that may not benefit her right now, but it could benefit her 5, 7, 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
I think it's great.
And I want to back up, because so many people only have the benefit of watching, say, some of these movies where somebody gets off death row at the last minute and it's the same thing. It's also executive clemency. At the state level, state is completely different from federal. State is a governor, and there are many cases where they will review evidence, and some people have gotten a stay of execution based on, presumed innocence. And that's, I think, the public's view. So that's why some people have this idea that, oh, well, if you can prove that you're innocent, but it's two completely different creatures, federal versus state.
Do you focus on both, or do you focus more on the federal system just because it's more contained as far as it's not that different from state to state?
Well, I'm spread way too thin to be able to focus on state. I am a board member of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, and we're launching a state-by-state initiative or assistance to focus on people seeking clemency or pardon at the state level. So I'm going to be on that committee, but the Can Do Foundation, we're looking to maybe profile a couple of California state women in partnership with another organization that's already doing this kind of work. But we know who does this kind of work, so we can sometimes refer somebody. But no, we're just federal, and I'm up to here. The water level is just right below my eyes, trying to help the people who want assistance.
And you're actually heading out of town tomorrow. We've been trying to do this interview, guys, for what, about a month and a half, 2 months. And man, between Amy, like, so busy losing her computer on an airplane to to just being super busy. So here we are. And I want to talk a little bit about your prison experience, not so much like what it was to you, but just to give some insight to other women that are getting ready to go in. But I do want to make sure people have a way to reach you. The Facebook page that I'm on with you, is that the best one for people to connect with you on?
Right, yes. I caution people to reach out to me through Facebook. There's a Can Do Facebook page. I typically post most of my stuff on my personal page, because for some reason I can tag people on my personal page and I can't on the Can Do.
That's the one that's the one I just shared. I just shared the correct one.
Yeah, Amy Can Do.
Yep, Amy Lou.
Well, yeah, it's Amy Can Do now, but it was Amy Lou, but it's Amy Can Do. We also have a Can Do. But if people would actually reach out to me through the website, that comes to my email. I rarely check messages through the Can Do Facebook page. I don't even think to look for those messages. There's too many people can reach you now. There's like 500 different ways, and I will answer any messages that come through the website.
That's the candoclemency.com?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's make sure we post that again for everybody. I'm sticking it in the chat box right now, guys. So here you go. HTTP.
In fact, I just had a woman reach out to me. I spoke to her today, and she wants help for somebody serving double life. And the only thing that I felt like I could provide some assistance on was that he was a juvenile before he was sentenced. And there is case law now, and there is maybe a little bit of hope. I reached out to a law professor who was able to answer that question, and Mark Osler, who's my go-to for a lot of things. And
shout out.
Yeah. So I will be passing on that information that I got for her. So sometimes we can answer questions, or we may have some knowledge that's, you know, outside the scope of clemency. But I sure hope that he can maybe get some relief, because if you were a juvenile sentenced to a life sentence, I think that there's a ray of hope for you to be able to get that reduced.
To get overturned. Is that you or me? That's you. So that's you know, it's unfortunate. Double life sentence sounds like, just like, why double? You know, it's isn't life enough? But so for the women, we've got a couple women in here right now that are watching. That are going to be, I've got one lady, she's going to be heading off in February, like on a 46-month sentence. Now, did you make it down to a camp at the end?
No.
So
I was at the medium facility the entire time. And
so let's talk about that. Do women have camps, lows, mediums, and pens, or is it like just one or the other? Yeah,
no, we do. You know, there's most women have, you know, it's either medium, or even you can even be in a medium security facility and be a low, what is it, a low in or a low out, and go to camp later, which the camp, there's no razor wire or fences. But you know, there were other women who had even more time than I did that did go on to camp. But my case manager at one point told me that I was too high profile, because by that time I had already received some media, and I think somebody went to the camp and she escaped. And she was kind of a high profile person. Her story was on, I don't know, 48 Hours or something like that. And you know what, I'll be honest, I was okay with it, because you get in your little groove. And at that time I had my little groove down, and you have a better law library in a medium security facility. You have more access to law books and stuff, and I needed that law library. So I never really was fighting to go to camp. Okay. But yeah.
So a lot of the women that we deal with, you know, they have a lot of similar concerns. Some are a little specific, but the main concerns about safety: what do they need to fear? Can they borrow stuff from other inmates? Are they going to get, you know, either hit on or possibly forced upon by male guards? These are some legitimate issues that also make for a great topic at the same time. But what was your experience? And not just your experience, but obviously you kind of are the voice for several different experiences of people that are either in it or gone through it. What is something a woman right now that is preparing to go to federal prison, whether it's for 3 years or whether it's 15 years, what are some of the things that she should be worried about versus some of the things that she should not be worried about at this point in time?
Right. Well, the guards, you go through an orientation, and you know, I'm not going to tell anybody what language to use, but we're with the National Council of Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, we're getting away from using, you know, terms like inmate and stuff like that. So I try to be careful about, you know, the terminology that I use. So during orientation, the guards would come through, and I remember when they told us that that not to trust any of the women, don't accept anything from them. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they'll always want something in return. So you're going to pay one way or another if somebody gives you a little bit of shampoo or a bar of soap, because at first you don't have those items. And you got to use your common sense, because you have to realize that you are one of those women. So as soon as you go in there, then they're saying that about you as well, because you're part of the population. And but it does intimidate you. You kind of have this. The day I walked onto the compound, there was kind of a high volume of electricity due to the fact that somebody had just slashed somebody's face. And I thought, oh my God, it really is like in the movies. This is, how am I going to make it through this? And And that was a very extreme situation. Nothing like that really happened again while I was in there. Certainly not at that level. There would be some degree of fights, but nearly. One of the things I'd like to caution you about, and there's no judgment whatsoever. I'm not judging anybody for what their personal choices. But if you do get in a relationship, just understand that if you ever want to break off that relationship, that, you know, it's a little bit difficult than out here if you want to just walk away from a particular relationship. And so the majority of the fights seem to be behind lovers' quarrels, and that's what that particular incident was about. So, you know, but then again, I know some people who are found the love of their life and they're still in, you know, those relationships. So, but I just think people need to use their common sense. And the first thing that happened was that several women greeted those of us who were new and offered, you know, hygiene products and stuff like that. And what I came to learn was that those are just nice women who are concerned. They've walked that path. Nobody expected anything in return. And some of the best people in my life to this day, one of my board members was my roommate in there. I think I'm in touch with almost all of my roommates, and except for the roommate that I got out. She was deported to Hong Kong. It's hard for us to stay in touch. But I think you're going to meet actually some of the best people. Even though it may surprise somebody, some of you, you're going to meet some of the best people that you'll be bonded with for life. There's some beautiful, wonderful people in there that just got swept up in something.
Do you think that thought, like how you said, believe it or not, you'll meet some of the best people in your life? Do you think the reason why it might be hard for people to believe that is because of the way we're raised? We only imagine that really bad people go to prison, and you think only bank robbers, murderers, rapists, they're the only type of people that go to prison. And once a lot of us go through this, and maybe you felt like this, maybe you didn't, but at the time of going through the prior to going into prison or prior to starting your sentence, you feel kind of isolated, like you're the only one in the world that this is happening to, and how did this mistake happen? And then once you arrive at prison, you realize, man, there's a lot more people in here that probably don't need to be here for this period of time. And it's very easy to forge awesome relationships in prison. Exactly.
Right. And I don't know if anyone had the benefit of watching 60 Minutes not that long ago, but they profiled the story of Sean Hopwood, who had robbed a bank. So even if you just think there's bank robbers and horrible murders or rapists in there, he's now a law professor at Georgetown University and is doing amazing things, and he's an amazing man. It's really an eye-opener, and if you want to, there's nothing about this that is fun. It is a nightmare. It's definitely a nightmare. On the other hand, if you will prepare yourself mentally and emotionally, we're trying to get the Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act passed to ease some of the trauma that goes on. And I'm not trying to scare people, but just having to remove all your clothes, squat and cough and be subjected to that, to be in your unit and taking a shower and having a male guard pull the shower curtain back to see whether or not there's lesbianism going on in there as their excuse. We want to get male guards out of those personal spaces. So we're working on that. But also, if you will manage your time and use common sense and mentally prepare yourself, I really encourage people to work very hard on self-edification, self-improvement, They're taking away some of the courses that we've worked very hard to get implemented in there, and we used to have Pell Grants, but especially if it's just 2 or 3 years, really get to know the women, bond, and when you come out, if you want to be a voice, there is a growing movement. We are mobilizing and we're serious, and there is a huge community out here that we all have to, I think, start talking about this topic. And I hate to say this, but the more people that it touches, the more you're converted. And then your family, your aunt, your uncle, all of a sudden everybody's eyes are open, because nobody can believe this happens to them until it touches your life personally. And, you know, it could be, you know, I know there's a lot of people who did wrong things. I get that. But there's a lot of people on Wall Street who did wrong things. And I don't see them serving the time. In fact, there's a lot of women in right now for that mortgage meltdown that we had in 2008 that were just paper shufflers for Countrywide, but the head of Countrywide never served a day. So that's what we need to change in this country.
I agree. I agree. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are going through some serious things, and it's unfortunate that they're not murderers, you know, and white collar, whether you're a white collar criminal or you're somebody that got in trouble for the amount of time that we're seeing some people get sentenced to, doesn't seem like it really matches the crime. It seems more of a game of money, of how many people can we lock up. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I think the fact that you're like I know you're not a one-man army, and I do want to give a huge shout out to a person on your team, Mr. Malik. I've been working with Malik now for, wouldn't say working, but talking with for a good 1.5 to 2 years. And that's how I got to learn about you, and other people have brought me your information. And Malik is just, and he's never even been to prison. He's got such a heart and soul for this that I wish more people that haven't been took on that same leadership role and got involved, because it's hard to hear somebody that's been to prison, because of course, you know, if you've been to prison, you're going to advocate for it, but for somebody to be advocating for it that's never been there, it kind of shows a different side of it. So hats off to Mr. Malik. I'd
also like to give a shout out to, I'd like to introduce a few of the people that are part of our team, and then also let people know of some other organizations that they can rely on. But Maureen Grease is the head of our Guardian Angel program, and Bet is Bet Davis, Herman Davis, excuse me, I got it the other way around, are two of the hardest working women I know that constantly keep our Guardian Angel program moving. That's something that we created during the Obama Clemency initiative, but it's still going because we pair a Guardian Angel who will write to somebody in prison, maybe 2 or 3 people, and then we have a hub page on Facebook that Enrica Caldwell, vice president of my Can Do Foundation, started for us, created for us. We may even put that in public domain since we're no longer really dealing with confidential information or sensitive information. And what's important about that is, for any of your viewers that are watching this, if you will get your family members to connect with us, that's, to me, gives them a lot of comfort, because you're going to reach out to your family member and you're going to say, oh my God, you're not going to believe this, but you know, I can't get an appointment with the doctor, or I've got something wrong, and you're not, and your family's just going to be like, well, what do you expect me to do? I don't know what to do. They've never dealt with this, and it stresses them out. Well, if they're part of our network, we can at least give them guidance. We can also, we know how to navigate these waters. And when other people have plugged in, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that there was a community of people who've been in there and kind of know what to do and can guide us. So we strongly encourage people to join either the Guardian Angel program or just friend us on Facebook, because that's the best way to see what we're doing. We post stuff all the time. We've stood out in front of the White House with posters of everybody that we're advocating for. Some people we have t-shirts for. We connect prisoners in there to the media. We work with several media outlets. We had somebody who was freezing in Florida, in Miami, during this last cold snap. And my guardian angels, Bet and Maureen and Carol Leonard, also got Newsweek involved, and they talked with a woman, Alicia, who was in that Miami detention center. And they just need somebody to be able to reach out to. When Beaumont was flooding during Houston, during that hurricane, that prison, the men were there and the water was coming up to their waist and higher, and they were drinking toilet water, and we were hearing in real time from the family members what was going on in there, and then we reach out to the media. So I think there's a lot of benefit there, and we can also give people just some comfort, I feel, with regard to people need to know that the rules are changing with mail. You're going to send mail, and guess what? It's going to be returned, because that prison has invoked some kind of new rule because of people who are trying to get synthetic drugs in, and you can't send them a greeting card. It has to be a photocopy of a greeting card. Little things like that we can, let people know about. And also, just if there's different institutions, there's different nuances. And sometimes people want to know, would I be happier at FCI Dublin or FCI Danbury? Sometimes you don't have a choice, but sometimes
I think you're really nailing it on the head, especially with one of the big focuses we have is we have a saying here, community is method. And a lot of people in prison don't have the ability to just jump online and do research. You're stuck to whatever it is you hear around the prison. So we encourage family members and friends of family and friends of people in prison to get involved. And if you have people, we started a new blog that we're doing blogs from prison for exactly what you're talking about, because a lot of the resource and a lot of the information you probably get from the prison is from people you have in prison. So creating these blog sources where we have inmates that are blogging about specific prisons, good and bad, programs they got, things they don't like about the prison, somebody coming in behind them that just finds out where they're getting ready to go, that's going to be self-surrendering in 30 days to whatever prison it is. We all do the same thing. We jump on Google and we look up that prison, and the information we find is usually very, very, very vague. Having a source like this, and you have such an amazing source of people that are already there, if you want to utilize this, we can help you utilize this to reach out to these people and put their stories out there on the blog, because it will just grab Google's attention, and it's going to show people what's going on and get these families engaged. And I think by you creating that Facebook page for these families to be able to go to get relevant information for what's really going on, because you guys are doing the research. You're a small team of people, so to be able to scatter that information to every inmate in prison is a very huge task. So if you can give the information to the families through a Facebook page or through your website, and then they can share this real, actual information with their loved ones, I think that's a huge plus. So if you guys are listening right now, what she's saying is use this community as method, and don't just sit there as a family member feeling alone. There is a community of people out there. The loved ones that are in prison, it's almost just as hard for the family members that are outside in the real world, because they're going along with it with us, and they don't know what we're going through, and they don't know what they can do for us. And I think with what you're offering, with the tools, with the necessities, with not just your own group, but with the groups that you use outreaching with, and that the guardian angels that you've created this one-on-one type of relationship with. I can't imagine how this idea came and how you made it work so well for this long, because your name is about as large as it gets in the industry. Anybody that's in this industry, whether it's helping inmates, whether it's prison consulting, anybody that's in it for the right reasons, whenever I say, oh yeah, I know Amy. Oh, I've had a great, actually I had somebody in here comment a little while back ago, said, hey, tell Amy I said hi. She spoke to me for like 2 hours ago, 3 months ago for, she couldn't help me, but she stayed on the phone with me for like 2 hours. That's what makes you different, because people can see that. They can see that, you've got to make a living just like everybody else. And that's where your foundation comes in play. But you can see that your heart and passion, and you can see you sometimes sound like you just need a break, but you don't know how to take one, because how do you do that? There,
and I know what my mom went through, and I know what I put them through too. And if you want to give your family members some relief, and there's this massive network of people who were formerly incarcerated who now have their own organizations. So we know also where, like if you're from Louisiana, there's Fox Rich and Sarita Steve Martin who are there and boots on the ground, and they have their own organizations, and they just did a women's march in New Orleans. So we can connect the family members to them, but we can also connect people who are either serving time or coming out soon with them. We just had a situation where somebody got out, got themselves an apartment, but she didn't realize that she had to pay another $70 to have her water turned on. So they're helping with that. We're helping. We're just trying to give guidance. But we've got people in New York that have Ladies of Hope Ministries. We've got somebody who's got Project Liberation. We've got organizations all around the country that we can help direct people to.
That's what people need. They don't know a lot of this stuff exists until they find it, and when they find it, I imagine it's a huge blessing. Let's see. I know we're probably running out of time here. We're at 6:20. Is there any final words of wisdom that you would like to leave with either the family members that have people in, or with the young, the women and men that are getting ready to head off for this journey, whether it be short or long term? What is something that you think that you wish you had known going into this that you can impart on somebody that's going in?
I guess I wish I'd known that when you get to prison, you're responsible for paying for everything and having to buy things. It's actually expensive in there. It's called commissary. What a racket. That's a multi-million-dollar profit center. So when you get to prison, there's a number of profit centers. They have a job waiting for you at the Unicorn factories. It may be cut and sew or furniture factory or data processing or whatever, but you start off with 23 cents an hour, and if you work real hard, you work your way up to $1 an hour. But yeah, I know. So many people. Wow, if you can stash some money away, or if your family is able, of course, then they want to take money off your books to pay for your fine. So I wasn't prepared for that. You have to pay for everything from tennis shoes to sweats to hair products to you name it. Aspirin. It's kind of expensive, and so I had one little investment that nurtured me, that the feds didn't seize for me, that was generating income for me, and that kept me from suffering. But a lot of people, it's just so sad because they don't even have funds for commissary, and the families do what they can, but you better stash something away, and just also know that you have to work. When you're in there, you're either working on the yard somehow for some kind of prison job in education or food service, or you're working at Unicorn. And you just got to learn to navigate those waters. And I wish everybody, that God will protect you, and that you won't have any health issues. Get your teeth checked before you go. You mean the dentists are not amazing dentists in prison? Well, they weren't. They got better, a little bit better. There was more funding, but also they're really good at pulling teeth, though. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Try to avoid that. What you may not know is that there is email in there, and they didn't have email when I was in there. I wished I would have had email. It's called Core Links. It's not internet access, but you will be able to email people, and that helps because it's it's quick. And for women, they have Skype, which we're on right now. So you can set up some Skype visits. That's helpful for women who are trying to bond with their children, although we're worried that they're going to try to go to a Skype visitation basis in the future only. So want to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I just wish, everybody the best that's having to face this. And when you get out, I understand if you don't, you want to just put it all behind you. But there's a huge community that if you do want to become vocal and try to help us pass criminal justice reform or draw attention to the stories that your own story or what you've been through, we can help plug you in with that. And there's quite a few organizations that are doing amazing things, including Cut 50, that is trying to reduce the prison population by 50% over the next 10 years. That's an amazing organization as well. There's so many. I could probably should put links up on the website to.
Somebody's actually got a question for you, Amy. Somebody just asked about Skype. They want to know, does it cost or is it free, or how does that work for the inmate, or who pays for it?
I think it's $15. That's, to me, I mean, it's just awful. You pay for it. Again, it's expensive in there, and
does it come off of like your TrueLinks or your CoreLinks account? Is that how it, or it's not the loved one that pays for it?
Yeah, you have to you get money on your books first of all, and then you have to allocate money. You probably have to switch it over and identify whether it's going to CoreLinks. TrueLinks is probably all connected into Skype, but you will probably transfer money. All that's become a little bit more modern from when I was in there. I probably am not the best person to explain, but it is. Wait, maybe I'm wrong. That Skype may not be that much. Maybe I
think it's like $5.
Yeah, I think it's $6 actually. I'm sorry, I said 16. Okay. I think it's $6 because I was raising money at Christmas so we could put money on the books of the prisoners that were on our website so that they could Skype. So I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. And then I think a 15-minute call is like $3.
$3.90.
Yeah, $3.90, and the Skype is, I think it's $6. I was quoted, but maybe maybe it varies. So
and we do have services available for people that are trying to reduce the cost. Now, we can't reduce the cost of Skype, but we can help them reduce the cost of their phone. We've worked out a couple deals with a couple other like Prison Connect, and we've got a deal with them now where we can give everybody their first year free. So their phones for the first year will be completely free. They have to pay the local fee in prison, which instead of it costing $3.90 a phone call, ends up costing them 90 cents per phone call. So it's a huge saving for somebody that's on a shoestring budget. And as you can hear, Amy was there. She saw what it's like for people that don't have. Everyone's like, oh, these guys get jobs in there. And the jobs don't pay anything. I mean, the jobs don't pay enough to really buy anything halfway decent. I'm not talking about going shopping on commissary and buying all the top-notch food and best sneakers. We're talking like basic hygiene products that these people need in prison that they don't have. And the hygiene products that are given, especially if you're a woman, from what I've heard, and I don't know if you remember this conversation, Amy, but my fiance Shelly, she also was indicted with me, and she went to the women's camp, so I got some real good insight from her as to how different it really is for men and women. And those hygiene products can get expensive, and that's why. And I know you and I have already spoken about this. Amy's going to be providing us with some people that are inside of prison, some women and men that need this assistance, because we raise money as it is right now. And we have these little, you can't see the camera because I can only see you, but we have these RDAP Dan wristbands that we send out to people. They're completely free if they want one. They just go on the website, they fill out a form, but there's also a donation link, and anything that's donated is used to help people that are inside the system right now that are struggling with having phone minutes, being able to buy stamps, being able to send emails, being able to buy basic commissary. Cold, in the weather, when it gets cold out there, people need sweaters, they need socks, they need warmer clothes. And not everybody has somebody on the outside that's able to provide. It can get very expensive. So guys, don't forget, if you're looking for your RDAP Dan wristband, the money is not used for me to go out and have a good night out with my girlfriend. It's used to help these people that are going without. We just had, I want to say a big thank you to John Goff. John just donated $380, or yes, $380. And he actually did it through my cryptocurrency account, which was amazing. So John, thank you very much. And the rest of you, yeah, we've received over with these RDAP, here's the thing, Amy, these bands, as much as I think they're cool, we have hot pink, we have blue, and we have white. And the purpose for them is people right now are stressed out when they're getting ready to go through this. And the idea is not to allow yourself just to dwell in the moment of negativity when it doesn't do you any good to sit there and be sad and get frumpy and not do anything about it. So when they look down and they see this band, it's to create a trigger to go, oh, this is what he was talking about. What can I be doing right now to be proactive and trying to take steps to prepare? Because for those of you that are going in for, whether it's 3 years, 10 years, your preparation for release really does need to start now, because everything you do from this moment to the day of sentencing to when you're going to get released from prison is going to play a role in how successful you are. And I don't mean successful by how much money is going to be in your bank account, but the changes that you're able to make going through this and how you come out. You're either going to come out jaded, or you're going to come out going, you know what, it sucked, but I turned this negative into a positive experience, just like Amy. You would never know Amy went to prison if she wasn't Amy Povah of the Can Do Foundation. It's like I'm talking to a celebrity right now. This is probably as close as I'm going to get to Oprah, as having Amy on my show. So, Amy,
but you know,
I just
want to add, and I know we're probably out of time, but that is one point I wanted to make, that even with clemency or really anything, your resume while you're in there is so important as to whether or not, you know, you're possibly going to get some relief. So you need to definitely program and stay out of trouble. I got written up just for writing to another prisoner that was transferred to another institution. You piggyback those, and it's against the rules, but every time you get in trouble, it's, you know, you get something that's called a shot, and that goes on your record. So it's just so important to mentor others and also engage in voluntarism. You know, try to volunteer your time to do something extra and pay it forward, because they do look at that. It does matter.
It's great advice. And I'm really, you know, one of the big reasons I'm glad we had this interview with you tonight is I really did learn some additional things as to what you guys are advocating for, so much to the point where I think, even though we do completely separate things, I think there's a very common ground here where I think there's a lot we can do good together on helping these people, on sharing the resources that we both have. And I think everybody is going to appreciate this video. The Facebook post, I'm going to let you know now, I think it got screwed up, Amy. I'm not sure if people clicked on the Facebook post, if it brought them here. So when this video is over, I will upload it to your Facebook so you can share it with everybody, because I think this is real important for people to hear. You probably get asked so many questions all the time that sometimes so many things that you want to tell people that is buried in your mind that doesn't come out until the question's triggered. So hopefully we triggered a few questions for you tonight. I thank you. I know everybody on YouTube and everybody on Facebook is going to thank you. Guys, Amy's contact information is in the description. It's in the chat log. If you want to reach out to Amy and you want to reach out to the Can Do Foundation, the best way to do it is go to the link that's posted to her website. She's already told us that's going to get you the quickest response, because that's where her team is able to pick up what's going on. Amy, thank you very, very much. I feel blessed to have you. God bless you. And if you guys need anything, we love it. Peace. If we need anything from you, Amy, we'll be reaching out to you soon. Oh, and you got a friend in here. She wanted to say hi. I just saw it. We have Holly Coleman, who's also in here watching.
I love Holly. You need to interview Holly if she hasn't already been on your show.
Oh, man. I don't think Amy watches RDAP, Dan.
Oh.
Yeah. Holly beat you to the punch by like 3 months.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to turn Amy into a fan after that, though. Now you got to go watch every video, Amy.
Yes, I do. Well, Holly, I got to meet in person. I just have to say. I
heard. She had the fortunate luxury of having dinner with you.
Yes.
I got to ask, who paid for dinner?
I don't know. Did we split it?
That's a joke. You don't have to answer that. All right, guys. Have an awesome night. I love every single one of you. Don't forget, every day, people helping people, one day at a time. Community is method. I'm RDAP Dan, Amy Povah from Can Do Foundation. Thank you again. Peace.